I'm going to summarize the Buddha's second lecture. And this is a little bit strange to most people because his lecture is actually on the no self, or the idea that you as a self don't exist. And I've worked this in my lectures over the years, and people have a very strange reaction to this. And the Buddha used two different points to try to enlighten these monks he was lecturing to, that their common sense notion of a self was an illusion. And one was control, and the other was the nature of change. And so let's deal with change first. So I'm sitting in this chair, and it feels like I'm very still and solid and unchanging. And that's the way the self kind of feels. Like you feel like you're the same you were last year, 10 years ago. And that can't be. That just doesn't fit with the nature of reality, because everything we know about reality is a continuous change. In fact, even though I feel like I'm sitting here, I'm actually moving, and not just moving a little, but at rates that it's impossible to even imagine. And so I'm on this planet that I'm moving 24,000 miles an hour around, and then I'm moving around the sun, and then the solar system's moving around the Milky Way, and then maybe the whole universe is expanding. So there's absolute, just continuous change, but I feel like I'm sitting here. And that's the same way the self feels like it's a solid, unchanging entity, but that's just an illusion. It's continuously changing. And you can kind of notice this. So if you become more conscious of the self, and how even when I'm done with this recording, I'll go out and play with the kids, and that self will be different. And then there'll be a different work self, and it's continuously changing. So the self is anything but this solid, unchanging entity. The second argument he used was the notion of control. And so he argued that things like perceptions and feelings and thoughts just happen to us. And all of these things get bundled together, and we attribute them to this kind of solid, unchanging self. But if that were the case, then that self should have some control over all of this. I mean, just take the case of worry. Practically everyone you talk to is fully aware that worry does no good. And they realize this. And you say, okay, well, stop worrying. And they just look at you like, well, I would if I could. Well, if all the thoughts and perceptions, if all that were actually you, well, you could just turn it off. The very fact that you can't should be enlightening that it's not you. And so these two things together, the nature of change and the nature of control, point to this idea, this common sense idea that I'm somewhere behind the eyes, between the ears, and that I'm in control of all of this. That just isn't the case. And so why is that enlightening? Why does that help anyone? Well, because all of your problems are your problems. All the things that make us unhappy. So we are part of the problem. And when you put down all this kind of baggage of the self and realize that it's all just an idea, none of it has any substance, then all the problems go along with it.